Hey guys, this is Jesse Peone with the Salem Business Journal podcast, and with me today I have Ryan Collier.
Hello.
Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing really great.
Good. Well, before we get started, I want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors for this podcast. One of them being Compass Visuals, thank you guys, and second being Collier Law. So thank you guys for sponsoring, and Ryan, of course, thank you for sponsoring Salem Business Journal, making it possible, for us to do everything from our news articles to like being able to throw on events to doing this podcast, because it's kind of like being able to like having the support and funding for that helps me pay journalists and helps us be able to do this stuff. And so it's been a wild ride, but thank you for your support. That
Absolutely.
means a lot.
You're worth it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Now, Ryan, again, I should have probably had you on this podcast a long time ago.
Uh-huh.
I was trying to be extra cautious because of the fact you were one of my early advertisers.
Sure.
And I just wanted the world to know that I wasn't having you on because of that. And I think I was trying to be extra cautious of it. But in this community, you have done a lot. And like you've been, I think my dad actually talks about you as Mr. Salem. I think he refers to you.
I love your dad. Your dad was my business partner for 8 years and my mentor. Like he took young Ryan lawyer and helped me become the lawyer I am today. So I'm going to give your dad some credit for that.
Yeah, no, he's I love him to death. He took street rat Jesse and helped me become a civilized human. It's the closest I can become to one. But it's funny seeing him now that he's retired because, I was so used to him being, I would always refer to his job title as head boss lawyer man.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's sort of what he was.
Yes. And in my head, that's all that made sense. But now, he's just working on the farm. He's, taking care of the horses, the property, and
Tammy's right hand.
Yeah, he's my mom's farmhand.
Exactly right.
And so it is really funny because I was so used to seeing him suited up every single day, going to work, at the, Justice Department here in Salem. And then now he's just, he's got his, jeans and his work gloves on. He's out there, tilling fields and taking care of the horses, chasing the turkeys off of the flower beds. It's hilarious.
It is. Good.
Yeah. But, so Ryan, why don't we start with, you mentioned that, my dad was one of your mentors, but then also I'm kind of curious to hear, how did you get into law? When did you decide to do it? And just tell me a little bit more about, kind of your upbringing. Are you from Salem originally? Were you
born and raised Seattle? Hence my Seattle Seahawks socks that I'm currently wearing.
Yeah.
But I'm
Where is Seattle?
North Seattle. Went to Shoreline School District, high school at Shorecrest High School up in Seattle. So that's sort of where I was raised with my mom and my dad and my sister. My interest in law was really because my grandfather had a just close family friend that was a lawyer. And at 14, he kind of took me under his wing. I'd take the bus to downtown Seattle and meet him. We go out to lunch, and he really kind of mentored me, talking about the law and what he did and how he helped families and how he was sort of an advisor for families, everything from estate planning to business issues and things like that. And I was like, man, I want to be that. I want to be someone that a family can rely on just to be there for them. And that idea basically spawned my desire to do estate planning, my desire to go to law school.
Yeah.
All the things I am today are largely because I had this vision for helping people.
Dang, how old were you when you met this guy?
14. Well, when I met him, much younger than that. When I got the idea that when he invited me to see what he does, come down to his office, that would have been 14. But I was like, I was born and he was already a friend of my grandparents, obviously. So
Oh, I see.
he was always in my life, but it was 14 when I got excited about, hey, I could do this.
Oh, cool. Where'd you go to law school?
That's what brought me to Salem. One beautiful thing about Willamette is it really brings in just some amazing people, and a lot of them end up staying like I did.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Probably really tall, handsome, good-looking people.
I don't know who you're talking about, but yeah, those kind in particular.
Both of us.
Yeah, there you go. Good.
Yeah.
No, but so I came down here to go to law school with my wife, Holly, and, we fell in love with Salem. We started having kids here. We raised rugrats, and next thing you know, this is where we are.
Dang. How old are your kids?
Currently, today is my son Austin's birthday. He just turned 31. He's in the Oregon Air National Guard down at Kingsley Air Force Base down in Klamath Falls.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, my wife is down there right now celebrating his birthday with him. And then my son Jacob is an electrical engineer here in Oregon. My youngest son Sean is a microbiologist up in Seattle.
Wow.
Yeah.
They all sound like they're pretty busy.
Yeah, that's pretty STEM kids. I call them real smart.
Yeah.
None of them wanted to be lawyers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I bet. Well, what's funny is that's something my dad told me too. When I was going to pursuing my MBA, I was looking at the JD MBA program originally. And, I was kind of looking at it. I was like, man, I think I might want to do the JD MBA because I do know I'd be good at it because I'm very but when I was talking to my dad about it, he was like, Jesse, you don't want to be a lawyer. He's like, you hate rules. I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point.
That is a good point.
And I am super thankful now because I've seen a couple of my super close friends have just, gone through Willamette Law, and a couple of them have taken the bar, and just seeing what they've gone through with that, I'm like, man, that sounds horrible.
Well, law school is tough. It definitely takes some grit to get through it. It's a lot of reading and a lot of work. At the end of the day, I love what I do, and I love my clients. I love helping people.
Well, I actually really liked, so when they were in the law program, of course, my roommate was in the Willamette Law, and it was very fun doing case study practice with them. So they were talking, they would read through a case, and then while they were practicing for the bar and stuff, then I would try to answer the questions with them and just using just regular logic, not knowing the law. And it was very interesting. I would say that it did really intrigue me learning about the different cases and being able to know what cases and the whole idea of how case law works, I think is pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm. It is. And they are very logical. I mean, the reality is there's sort of a formula to the way the law works.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's also an art to it because a lot of our law is based on these cases, and the cases sort of evolve over time a little bit. So there's some things like statute, right? We have laws, our legislature makes laws, and we follow those laws, but there's a whole body of law that kind of interprets that and also creates a law that's a little bit more organic, and you get that from the case law, which makes the law both a little bit scientific, a little bit of art, somewhere in the middle.
Dang, that was kind of a crazy thing though, because there's sometimes when I would hear about or you see this in the news sometimes when there's case law, but it's not really good case law, or what we view as good case law nowadays. Is there ever does that happen very often?
What, that I disagree with what judges say? Sure, about half the time I disagree with what they say, and that's when I lose. And when I agree with what they say is when I win.
Oh, fair enough. What kind of law do you practice again?
So I'm an estate planning lawyer. My law firm, Collier Law, is pretty exclusively in the area of helping people plan for incapacity or their death, or helping them navigate after someone's died or when they're incapacitated. So probate is the term we use for when somebody's passed away and we're using the court system to administer their estate. When they have a trust, we use a term called trust administration, where we're helping that family privately administer. And then sometimes people need help with a guardianship or a conservatorship if they have a minor, if they have a incapacitated family member and they need authority to kind of take care of their affairs. We do that work too.
Well, I feel like that work's super important. It seems like it's kind of something that often people won't think about. At least I don't, But at the same time, there's going to come a point when I do need to figure that out because eventually we die.
Oftentimes a guardianship, conservatorship, that work is the result of a kind of a failure to plan. Yeah. Because if you don't have any plan in place and you end up being incapacitated, think about the things that you have to deal with every day. Paying bills, managing your Social Security benefits, insurance claims. That all requires a level of authority. But if you become incapacitated, no one else has the authority to do that, not even your spouse. And so,
spouse doesn't have the authority to do that?
Your spouse doesn't have the authority to sign your name, to do things for you. That's why, and some of your listeners will know this, they call the electric company that screwed up the bill for the third time. And the electric company says, I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith, we can't talk to you because your husband is the only one that's on the account.
Oh.
So that kind of thing. So sometimes if you haven't done any planning, we have to have the court give us the authority to manage your person, which is guardianship, or manage your money, which is a conservatorship.
Oh, that's insane.
Yeah. But we do it, and it's that work. There's not enough lawyers doing that kind of work, and therefore that tends to be the kind of place where it's a little bit more like a ministry. It's a little bit more like serving people that really need the help, and there's really no one else that can do it. I mean, lawyers are the gatekeepers of justice.
Yeah.
We hold the keys to the court, and so we also have an obligation to make sure that people can get to the court, meaning that we have a higher duty than making money. We have an obligation to be officers of the court and helping people be the arbiters of justice.
Dang, that's a really good way to look at it.
Mhm.
'Cause
Yeah, I need a superhero cape.
yeah, you do. Well, I think that's, I like the way that you worded that because you're right. I mean, in order to like do stuff with the court, I mean, I can't. Well, nowadays I've heard about people trying to use ChatGPT, but whether or not it pans out for them is another thing. But it is very interesting to me because you're right. I mean, in order to do a lot of those things, you do got to go through a lawyer, which puts a lot of responsibility on you guys because you need to make sure that you're actually like taking care of people.
Yeah, that's true. And so it's why I love what I do, because at the core, when I'm helping people plan for their own incapacity and death, we call that estate planning. When I'm helping people, they're coming to me in need, or they're thinking about those things, or they're thinking about their grandkids or who they love. And I get to walk alongside them and help their family do that planning and build these really long-term relationships where they come back to me year after year to talk about changes in their life. And I get to talk to them about faith. Like, how many lawyers get to lean in with their clients because faith is a relevant topic regarding their plans?
Yeah.
Like, I love it. Like these are going to have these really deep conversations with my clients.
That's pretty cool. Well, because that's not what I think of when I think of a lawyer, And so I think that's really cool that you get to have that relationship with people over time.
Yeah.
How early do people typically start planning?
So there's usually life events that push people towards asking for my help. And they tend to be things like this. The birth of your kids. Like, all of a sudden you're responsible for these human beings and they can't fend for themselves. And so if mom or dad can't do it, there needs to be some kind of plan for who's going to take care of the kids, who's going to raise them, how are we going to hold money until they're old enough to do it themselves. So I get a lot of families with new kids that will come see me.
Yeah.
And then really the next life event tends to be if a parent of yours becomes ill or is looking at their own mortality. That tends to be a wake-up call for people to think, oh, shoot, mom and dad didn't have their affairs in order. Now everything's going to heck. I need to get my own affairs in order. Sometimes that's also on their retirement. They're kind of thinking about the next chapter of their life. Or what's worse is when a client gets like stage 4 cancer, well, shoot, now they have a very limited time left. Then they come see me. That's obviously way too late. But it tends to be a life event that tends to move people towards wanting to do planning.
Dang.
Yeah.
It's making me start to think about, I need to do planning. I don't got kids yet, though.
Yeah, but you have stuff.
I do have stuff.
Yeah. And someone needs to take care of your stuff if you can't.
That's a fair point.
And you are one horseback ride or motorcycle accident away from maybe needing a little help. Do you want to hear a story?
Oh, no.
Here's the story. This is going to help you out. So I have 3 sons. When each of my sons turned 18, there was certain adulting things that they need to do. Register to vote, driver's license, like all this kind of stuff. But one of the other things they need is once someone becomes 18, they're responsible for their own affairs. Like, mom and dad no longer have any authority over you once you're 18 years old. And so before they went off to college, each of them had to come down to the law firm and get 3 tools in place. Durable power of attorney, so that mom and I could take care of things that required their signature. Medical power of attorney, Oregon uses a form called an Advanced Directive for healthcare, where you say, if I have to make medical decisions but can't do it, here's the people that can do it for me. If I am on life support, here's the situations I want life support. Here's the situations I don't want life support. And then a medical release so that we can actually talk to your doctors. So each of my sons did this. Admittedly, they wouldn't see me. They wanted to see another lawyer at the firm, which I don't blame them. But they all got these tools. And so my son, Jacob, who gave me permission to tell this story, he was 19 years old. He was at Oregon State University, go Beavs, by the way. And he was an RA, residential advisor. So he had his own basement room and he was studying for finals. And he did something where he stood up, blacked out, went straight back on the concrete floor, split open his head, got a serious concussion, bleeding, nerve damage. woke up about an hour or so later from being unconscious, was able to dial 911. Ambulance came to Todd Hall, which is the dorm he was at Oregon State. Ambulance took him to Good Samaritan in Corvallis. Well, he was an adult. The hospital wouldn't call us. They waited till he regained enough consciousness that he could call me and say, Dad, I need help. So I knew this would be an issue. So I took a copy of his advanced directive, took a copy of his medical release, emailed them to myself, drove down to Good Samaritan, walked in the emergency room. Oh my gosh, where's my son? And that nurse was doing her job when she said, I'm sorry, sir, I can't give out patient information. So from me to you, I emailed her his advanced directive and medical release. On the computer, she opened it up and says, oh, Mr. Collier, your son's actually through those double doors. He should be on the third room on the right. So because my son had those tools in place at 19 years old, I could advocate for him. I could talk to the doctor. I could take notes on how to recover from a serious concussion and nerve damage. He's not going to remember any of that stuff. He needed a family member to advocate for him. So my son had those tools in place, and therefore we were able to help him out.
Wow. Yeah. So I guess that makes a lot of sense. So when you were able to go in there, right, instead of, because typically when you go to the doctor or whatever, like I've always gone by myself because it's just me. But you go in there and like they'll give you your sheets or whatever of what you need to do, and they'll tell you. But if you're in a state like that where you bashed your head open, then you're probably not going to retain any of that information, and you're kind of focused on existing. And so, having somebody be able to advocate for you and be able to take the notes and do the things.
Really important.
Yeah.
Do you want a life hack for your listeners?
Yes.
All right, here you go.
I love a good life hack.
So when you go to the doctor, they give you a big fat stack of documents to work on.
Yep.
One of those is always a medical release. And what it will say is, who can we talk to about your medical care? That's where you can write down your spouse, your kids, whoever you want on that list of people that can talk to your providers. And then they enter that into your system. And so now your MyChart effectively has a medical release for those people. There's one. Two, you can say, hey, check-in nurse, can I have a copy of Oregon's Advanced Directive for healthcare? They probably have paper copies at every doctor's office. If they don't, you literally can go on your phone to the Oregon Health Authority. It's a government agency. Look up Advanced Directive. You can literally download the PDF on your phone in any language you want. And then you can fill it out, sign it in front of either two witnesses or a notary, and then give it to your doctor.
Dang.
You don't need a lawyer to do them, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, that sounds pretty easy.
Yeah.
You can just do it.
You don't need a lawyer to do those two documents, and every person 18 to 88 needs those two at a minimum.
Dang. That's good to know.
Yeah.
And then at what point would they want to bring you in? Let's just say they do those two things.
Okay. So you still are missing what's called a power of attorney. Yep. A lot of people can get those online. Admittedly, mine's always going to be better than what you can get online, but it will sort of at least be a Band-Aid until you can get a little better planning. And then here's the things where you really need planning. One, if you have minor kids, man, they need to be taken care of. Therefore, there needs to be a plan for how we take care of them if you can't. So at a minimum, we need a very simple will that designates that for us and manages the money until they're 25. The point that you need a trust is really the point when you have assets. Pretty low level of that, though. If you own real estate, you really need a trust. Doesn't matter the value of the real estate. It's just the complexity of dealing with dirt, with real estate. Yeah. You need a trust to privately be able to manage that if you get sick or pass away. And then, of course, Oregon's limits are if you own assets like bank accounts, investment accounts, intangible, we call those intangible assets. If those exceed about $75,000, the reality is your family would have to go through a full probate process if you have assets that exceed $75,000. Well, that's a pretty low bar, super low bar, because we have a statute here in Oregon that says if you have real estate or you have assets that exceed $75,000, you have to go through a full court probate process from petition to final distribution, a year to 18 months in a court with a lawyer. The same process, whether you have $200 million or $200,000, you'd have to go through the same thing. Well, that's miserable. Like nobody needs that. One, it's public. Everything in your life, your family contact information, all your assets become public record. businesses troll that stuff, as creepy as that sounds, because they want to sell, your family stuff. And I'm a private person. Like I don't want anyone knowing that stuff about me. So that's a really low bar for just even a simple trust will keep you out of the court system.
Yeah.
And give your family the ability to manage your stuff for you.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but a lot of people have that much equity in just their home.
I know.
Just your home alone.
Yeah. But we're not talking equity. We're talking gross value. Doesn't matter if you have a mortgage. We're literally talking about the value of the piece of property. And can you think of a piece of property with a home on it in Salem for less than $200,000? No. So what I mean by is, if you own real estate, you're going through probate.
Dang. Well, then also your car, retirement accounts,
bank account, stocks and bonds.
If I have a bunch of Legos,
your firearms.
That's crazy.
And the Legos in particular.
Yeah, that's a hot topic.
You need a Lego trust.
What do you think about that?
Lego trust, they'd be awesome.
A Lego trust, that would be awesome. Did you hear about the Lego scandal thing going on?
That like massive amounts of Legos were stolen.
Yes.
Yeah, I heard about that. I was devastated.
I know.
Do you want to hear a funny story?
What?
Do you remember Hurricane Katrina?
Barely.
Hurricane Katrina basically blew through New Orleans. Oh, I don't know, 20 years ago, something like that. Long time ago. 15 years ago. I don't know, something like that. No, it couldn't have been that long. So my kids are 30. I bet it was between 15 and 20 years ago, because they were kids. They were little people. And so Hurricane Katrina happened. New Orleans devastated. In particular, all these kids like lose all their toys.
Yeah.
Think about it. They lost everything. And so Lego said, you know what? We want to support the victims of Hurricane Katrina. If you're willing to donate some of your Legos, then we're gonna hand out Legos to kids in Louisiana to help them, just give them something. And so my kids got super stoked about it. But I understand that my kids have been collecting Legos since they were born. Every holiday, every Christmas, every birthday.
Yeah.
I mean, Legos. So they have just bins and bins and bins of Legos. And so they agreed to donate a bunch of their Legos to Hurricane Katrina victims. So we gathered up just tons of their Legos and shipped them off to this Lego Katrina recovery thing. And then Lego published, we were able to help this many victims with this many pounds of Legos. And my kids had donated 5% of the worldwide Legos that went to Hurricane Katrina, just came from my kids. That's how much we gave. They had so many Legos. What that tells me is they had way too many Legos. Way too many Legos. And they still do. They're like 30 years old, and we still have all their Lego things all around the house. So.
That is a crazy story. Now, did they get a lot of the sets, or did they have like the bucket of Legos that you dump on the floor?
So it was all sets, but they would build the set once, and then they would destroy it and go into the giant bins, plural, of Legos.
Dang, that is insane.
And then they would build other things.
So you're a kid.
Well, I was a Lego maniac. Like, I loved it. Like, when my kids were growing up, like, I'd be on the floor with my kids from morning until whatever, just playing Legos with my kids. One of the great quotes that one of my sons said, and I think it was Austin. And we were all playing we were like building little Lego things. I think Mom was like sleeping in or something. It was a Saturday morning. And I think it was Austin that leaned over to me and said, "Dad, I wish Mom liked Legos as much as you. I just think she'd be happier."
He's got a good point.
I mean, Legos make us happy. So, of course, the logic of that makes perfect sense.
Has he tried it out yet, or?
So we still haven't got Holly to actually, that's not true. She has discovered Legos later in life. You know how Lego now does flower arranging?
No.
So my son started getting Holly these Lego plants and flowers to start building. So Holly loves it. So she'll build her little flower, and now we have a little Lego flower on her counter.
That is funny.
Yeah, we have about 3 of them, I think.
What an interesting way for Lego to get a new market. Yeah.
And it worked. Apparently there's a whole segment of the population that likes Lego plants.
Dang, we need to hire someone from their
marketing department. It's brilliant.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Well, Legos, if you notice, that Legos have just become more accessible to kind of all. Like, there's Legos specifically targeted for, young girls and all different ages. And it's expanded beyond kind of, Ryan's Legos when he was a kid, which was like space and knights and.
Yeah. Well, they've also become so expensive. Talk about accessibility. which is crazy.
There's a whole adult Lego market. I mean, basically, adults are like one of the fastest growing segments of Lego.
I had no clue. So what happened with this Lego story, at least from my end, is one of my writers just brought it to me, and it kind of like came across my desk, and then I was like, okay, cool. I was like, do a little bit more research, send it back to them, and then they came back again, and then I was proofreading it before we published it, and on it I saw the name Brian Mansell, and I was like, I know Brian. So then I call him up, and I'm like, is this you? I thought they made a mistake, and then he's like, oh yeah, that's me. I'm like, dude, why didn't you tell me about this? I would have published this a long time ago. And that kind of opened up the can of worms for me learning about the secondary Lego market, which is insane.
Yeah.
So from the stats that I was looking at, the value of Legos has outperformed the S&P 500 since like 2000, the year 2000.
I believe it, because they've also work with scarcity. Like they'll produce a set, but then they won't produce it again. So now all of a sudden the secondary market, like everybody wants to find that set. Like for me, if I could find the City Hall set, because it looks a lot like a courthouse, has a little lawyer like running down the steps with a little like suitcase. If I could find the City Hall Lego, I'd get it. But man, right now I'd have to pay about $1,000 to get it.
What?
I'm not even joking, because it's so rare. Everybody wants
crazy.
It.
Oh, that's insane. Because when I heard about it at first, when I was like, this guy invested this much into Legos, I was like, that's a crazy thing. But then when I saw the numbers of how much it's increased, I'm like, you know what? He's got me good.
Yeah. So my son, I'm a Star Wars fan. Obviously, I raised my kids in the Jedi Academy. Like that's how I trained them to be like young men, the whole thing. So my kids got me the Razor Crest, which is the Mandalorian's starship. And at the time they got it for me, it was the largest Lego set. I think it has like 6,700 pieces. It's huge. And it took me about 4 months to put together. Now, granted, I'm a working guy, so I don't have a ton of time to work on this thing. And my sons were totally disappointed in me that it took me 4 months to build it. Like they said, we could have done that in a couple weekends. I'm like, well, I got to work. But it's pretty awesome. It's pretty impressive. And it's like this work of art. And it was like meditative. It's like you're building a puzzle, and it's really relaxing to do. So I totally get it. It's to build it was wonderful. And then it actually makes this like almost like piece of art. So it is, Legos are for adults now. It's pretty awesome.
Dang, what a crazy world.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, back to the adulting.
Okay, we got
the adulting part.
we went a little rabbit hole.
Yeah, we went on a side quest for a minute.
But it was a fun one.
Oh yeah, super fun one.
Yeah.
What kind of things are you doing in the community now?
So great question. I am a recent addition to the Salem Police Foundation. So I'm on that board. Prior to COVID, this community had a pretty healthy program called Wills for Heroes that we helped found many years ago. What that means is for the Salem Police Department, we actually would do pro bono estate plans for line police officers and their families, basically to protect the people that protect us. And COVID really kind of destroyed it. And so my hope is I'm restarting that program to basically protect, our current line officers so that their families are protected, so that we look out for them.
Yep.
And local law firms in town are going to join with me to make sure that they all have, for our first responders have estate plans. We're also expanding that to include veterans too. So one of the things our law firm is going to do is on Veterans Day, all my lawyers and my staff are going to be in my office doing free estate plans for police officers and veterans.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Why? Because it seems like that's a lot of billable hours that you could be doing other things.
True, but it kind of goes back to the principle that the law has really blessed me. This career has really blessed me. Collier Law is doing fantastic, but that also means I have a higher calling to serve. It means I have a higher calling to make my business into a ministry to serve this community. And one of the things I'm passionate about is our first responders. Like they give huge sacrifices, both their physical risk and the pay's not that great, to protect us and our families and be there for us at a moment's notice. Well, what can I do? I can't do that. Like I can't be a police officer. I can't learn CPR and drive around an ambulance. But what I can do is I can protect the people that protect my family. So to me, that's kind of our higher calling. And that's one of the changes that I'm instituting in Collier Law is business as ministry. Like I want Collier Law to be outward focused and serving this community. So it's why we partner with Marin Polk Food Share, Meals on Wheels program. It's why we partner with Willamette Vital Health, Willamette Valley Hospice to, protect the families who have people that are in the dying process. So all these things, family building blocks, we sponsor Uncorked because they step in and protect our kids and keep our families together. So all these organizations I'm passionate about, I can't do that work. Like I can't be in the trenches with those people that do that so well. But what I can do is I can support those organizations that do that well.
Yeah, and they do it really well. I think I really agree with you on that because that's one thing that, I've kind of found, at least like with the SBJ, is it's like, so when I was younger, I got on the school board because in my head, I thought, politics, that's how I can, change the systems, change the foster care system, change the school system, to help kids have a shot at life, and I was like, that's how I'm going to change the world. But then I learned that you can just do it and nobody can stop you. You can just like do things. So then once I found out, I met these other like business people who will go create things. So create products, they'll sell the services, but then they'll just do it because it's just the right thing to do and they'll just do it. They don't have to like convince other people to do it. They can just do it. And I was like, that sounds awesome. And so,
but you did cut your teeth on the school board. Like you learned a lot how organizations work. You learn how to affect real change that then trickles down to kids in schools that the policies that you created reach to. So I don't want to discount the fact that you really learned a ton by being on that school board. It made a difference in people's lives.
No, for sure. Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of things that, I accomplished there that I'm really proud of. Like now we have students on the school board because a lot of times people would lean on me. They're like, oh, well, you're the youngest school board member. I'm like, well, that's great, but I'm not going to be young. Now I'm 30. I'm crusty now. I was 21 when I got it. Yeah. And,
but they also identified with you because like you were recently out of the school system.
Yeah.
And certainly were closer in age to the students than
for sure
other school board members.
Yeah, for sure. But I did know also that I wasn't always going to be young. And so we needed a systemic way to make sure the young voice gets heard.
For sure.
And not just because some young kid got elected somehow. And, I think that, that was really important, and I helped make sure that our Spanish program got expanded. In fact, I made sure on my way out that I had them commit to actually expanding the dual language program.
That's really important.
Because to our community, that's something that I think is going to set Salem Keizer apart from the rest of the nation even. If we're able to really expand the dual language program, imagine if every kid came out of Salem Keizer Public Schools
knowing 2 languages.
Spanish.
Yeah.
That would be huge.
Exactly.
And it sets them up for success in their futures. It's really good for your brain.
It's one of the first things we look for in our resume. If you know Spanish, you get to the top of the pile.
Yeah. And it's not just that, but like think about culturally. Think about all the race issues that we have in our country. And imagine
just cultural understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine like if we could just talk to each other and how much of those nuances or language or misunderstandings. And if we could understand each other and talk to each other, especially in a community like Salem Keizer, where we have a high amount of Latinos and a high amount of people who speak English, like imagine if we were able to bridge that gap and how much closer together our community could be. Like that's just something I think would be one really important thing that I think a lot of people miss when it comes to business owners is a lot of people aren't business owners to stack up a bunch of cash. In fact, if our goal is to stack up a bunch of cash, we just become surgeons or like an engineer or something, and I could stash up cash a lot quicker. I would just be less happy doing it. But being able to create and generate value in the world, right? You get paid doing it.
Having some other purpose.
Yeah. And you get to bring other people on this mission with you, and they also get to make a living doing it. So you get to feed your family. They get to feed their family. You get to serve a higher purpose and do some good in the world that, and if it wasn't good in the world, people wouldn't be paying to buy it, right? And so obviously you're bringing enough value for people to come do it. And at the same time, you can, any excess or additional things you have, you can put back into the community as a way to serve. And that's one thing that, I've been trying really hard to do with the Salem Business Journal, even though I'm not at the level I want to be yet. But what we have been doing is, even from, the very beginning, throwing on, the selfie museum, last year our goal was just to throw a fun event where you can come shut your brain off and enjoy a good evening, or the Salem Fashion Week, right? Me and Jordan threw that on. And that was, you just get to come show up, have fun. Salem's never had a fashion week before, so it was our first time.
I mean, right, kind of like the fashion week they'd have in like Milan or whatever, like, but just with like local stuff.
Yeah, totally. And so like what I've really loved about it is kind of like what you were saying about how like, those parts have been my favorite. It's like, or
just building community.
Yeah, we can build community and make this place somewhere like fun to live, somewhere good to live, bring people together. And even though, you do law and trusts and probate stuff, but then you can also use that to help out like our firefighters, police, and like those people who help serve us. So it's
veterans too, yeah.
Yeah, and veterans, yeah. And so I like the way that you were saying is you can use your business as a ministry, because I think there's a lot of people who I've met in our community who do exactly that, who give back, and a lot of times you won't hear about it, because you're not out on the street yelling this off the rooftops. It's something that that I think is admirable and something that I really like about, being in.
The ministry also just starts right in your own office. So, my first priority in this ministry I have 18 staff members who also have families, spouses, and kids. And, so if I can create an environment with them where they have a living wage, where they're doing well, where they're also participating in the success of the business, and have great benefits, and have health and dental insurance, and have a retirement account. If I can support that family, then I'm also serving this community and giving them buying power to stay here and to have a home and do all those things. So it starts there, and then it just builds from there. Like, we each have a responsibility, just make the place that we're in better. And it starts with the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah. Well, and one thing, like the weight of having employees is something that I learned over this last year, right? Because it was one thing when I was just managing other people's employees, right? When I was a manager, whether at the bank and I was overseeing people, or managing some retail stores in Woodburn when I was over there. And that's completely different mindset, because like the weight wasn't on me there. I was managing and I was like, okay, how can I logistically do this job well? But when their success, like their ability to put food on the table, relies on your ability to run this business efficiently and bring in business and serve your clients very well, like the weight, I think it's so different. Cause like, I don't know, I got to see like the first guy, I ended up hiring, I got to hear about it when he proposed to his, now wife, I got to see the pictures of after he got married. And then like, I got to see his growth as well. And like, for me, like, oh, that feels so good. And it's so fulfilling to be able to see, like, it's not just about me, and it's not just about the product. It's also the people who work with you, and,
you're part of their lives.
Yeah. And we're all in this together. And I think that's a real beautiful thing.
Yeah, I agree. It
also puts a lot of weight on you, because I'm like, man, I got to produce.
Yeah. You're responsible for that paycheck every month. One of the things we're really proud of is, we were talking about the culture of this community, the diversity in this community, that Spanish language is so important. It's one of the reasons why Collier Law invested in Salem Business Journal, because you were reaching the Latino community, because you were doing things in Spanish. And that's a community that we are actively involved in. I have lawyers and paralegals and receptionists who all speak fluent Spanish, so that we can serve that growing community, because there's really not many other lawyers that can speak Spanish. So you have this community that has needs and businesses and families, and we're able to serve those, which I think is part of our job. It's one of the reasons why, if we get applications in for a new legal assistant, anyone that speaks Spanish goes to the top of the pile, because we have clients that speak Spanish, so we need to be able to communicate with them.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's really important. That's one thing that, I've been really excited to work on, is our Spanish project. Now, it took a little back seat for a minute, because we had one of my podcast hosts disappeared. So we're recruiting. So if you guys know of anybody who, speaks Spanish, they're very personable, and, they're interested in learning from Spanish speaking business owners in the community, let us know. I've been doing some interviews over this last month of really like, I mean, I've been like at the point where now I'm like, okay, our bandwidth is good. I can do it and do it very well when we do it. Because SBJ I've really dialed in. And so now I want to be able to provide that same quality in Spanish, not a lesser quality, And so I've been actively recruiting for people, and I think that will be that'll be a ton of fun. And because that is something that I've noticed is like a lot of times, it's kind of like an afterthought for a lot of businesses. Like they're like, okay, we'll serve our clients, and then some businesses some people will be like, oh, well, we should also bring in these people, as opposed to like it's an afterthought, not as the main. Like
that's part of our business model. It's probably our fastest growing segment of our business is our Spanish speaking clients. Like we've been discovered in that community.
Yeah.
And the grapevine is real. Like they tell their friends and their family.
Yep.
And our business is exploding in that area, and we love doing business. So it's a great place to be. The other thing is we also have a lawyer that speaks Chinese, Mandarin Chinese.
Speaks Chinese?
Mandarin Chinese. And she was meeting with Chinese speaking clients today.
That's insane.
I know, it's incredible. We actually have a pretty significant Chinese speaking community here in Salem also.
Well, and I would assume that's important because like when you go to your bank, right, you wouldn't want to talk about finances in a language other than your main language that you speak, right? Because it's a little bit more complex. And so if it's easier for me to speak English, I would probably want to talk to my banker in English, not Spanish.
Exactly.
Right. And so I would assume it's the same thing, vice versa.
It is, especially when you're dealing with, somewhat complex topics, that if you're using your second or third language, it's going to be even harder for you to understand the words we're using in English, like revocable living trust. Like, I mean, how do you translate that if it's your third language and fully comprehend what it means? You need someone that actually can speak in your native tongue and give you an appropriate conversation in your native language about what that means, so you have a deeper understanding of it. So you absolutely need to do estate planning in your native tongue.
Yeah, for sure. Have you found beyond just the language, have you found a lot of cultural differences, like in the way people set things up or the way the businesses are set up, as opposed to your typical client?
Yeah, I'd say, and these are very stereotypical. So I'm trying not to overgeneralize, because every person is different.
Sure.
Every person has different backgrounds and has mixed cultural backgrounds. What's been fun about working in the Latino culture is they love family. Like their families mean so much to them. Now we all love our families, but I mean generationally they do. Like they're really willing to live multiple generations in one household, because that's the way that they've always grown up. Where me growing up in Seattle and Salem, my grandparents never lived with me. That was never a thing, but it's a lot more common in other cultures, including the Latino culture. A lot of our Chinese clients, culturally, we don't talk about that. It's harder to talk about death. They don't like even using that word. We use kind of other words for it, because for whatever reason, culturally, it's sort of a taboo subject a little bit.
Yeah.
And then also, more than really any of my other clients, my Chinese clients like to negotiate the bill.
Interesting.
So I think in the United States, because of our economic system is the way it is, the price tag in this grocery store, that's the price.
Yeah.
Right. That's our economic system is stable and spend like that. But in other countries, apparently in China as well, negotiating is actually part of the relationship building, which is really interesting. So meaning that it's important that I give them a little bit of a discount, or we kind of negotiate back and forth, because then they trust me more. Meaning that we've now built relationship, and a little bit of adversity kind of builds that relationship. Whereas other cultures, I haven't experienced that as much. So, yeah.
That's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but, and I'm sure that's not universally true of the Chinese culture, but I've noticed little things like that, which are really fun to just just learn what other cultures, what makes them tick, and how they are. And I learned something from them. I'm always just curious. I'm just curious about, gosh, I wonder why that is.
Well, it's fun because it lets you be able to serve them better.
Yeah, it is. I agree.
Yeah, I like that. Well, what do you think about one thing we hadn't touched on yet that I was really hoping that we would get to, because it's fun talking about all this stuff. But one topic that I think you would know a lot about, that I think our listeners would be really interested in, is a lot of the policies like statewide or even locally, right?
Oh, let's talk about the estate tax.
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly what I would love to talk about.
Okay. So Oregon has the worst estate tax exemption, death tax exemption, and the third worst marginal rate of all 50 states in the whole United States. When you die, you own stuff, real estate, bank accounts, stocks and bonds, all this stuff. And if your assets exceed $1 million in value, then that next dollar at your death gets taxed, starting at 10%, going up to about 16% marginal rate. No other state has that low of an exemption. That exemption was put into place in 2001. So that's 25 years we've had $1 million exemption. And $1 million 25 years ago was pretty significant.
Yeah.
It's different now. It's a little bit different now.
Yeah.
And so now,
just to give you an example, when I was talking to my little brothers, right, you used to be able to be like, oh, I bet you $1 you won't do that. Because of inflation, it's got to be, kids are betting like $5 now.
or 10,
Or 10.
right?
$1 ain't going to cut it no more.
It's not going to cut it anymore.
Yeah.
And $1 million doesn't cut it anymore.
Nope.
Because the idea back then was Oregon has a desire to tax wealth. And that's kind of in the fabric of this state.
Yeah.
And 25 years ago, $1 million was something. But admittedly, 25 years later, think of the value of real estate, of people's retirement accounts, and the appreciation in that value, that now $1 million affects average citizens, average people. Like how many pieces of real estate, and adding up all those things, it's going to exceed $1 million. So now we have a state that's taxing everybody at death, which is really hard. Like, how do you keep the family home? How do you keep the family business? Well, you can't if you have to pay all these estate taxes. And to make it worse, the state of Oregon also doesn't have portability. What does that mean? So our federal death tax exemption is $15 million. If you die, you have $15 million. The first $15 million is no tax. And then the next dollar is about 40%. That's a higher rate.
Yeah.
But if you're a married couple, technically you and your spouse each have $15 million.
Mm-hmm.
For federal government, if your spouse dies, you check a box and you've now stacked their $15 million on yours, you have $30 million.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to jump through any hoops. You didn't have to retitle any assets. Here in Oregon, married couples, if your spouse dies, what typically happens? The house goes to you, the accounts go to you, they're all joint. Well, now overnight, the surviving spouse's estate just doubled in size. But when they die, they only get their $1 million exemption. There's no way for them just to claim their spouse's exemption and stack it. You have to use it. If you don't use the deceased spouse's exemption, you lose it. So in Oregon, we have to do a level of estate tax planning that you wouldn't have to do unless you're in Arizona with about $20 million. So my clients have to pay a ton of extra money to make sure that their trust does this split and does this whole tax plan. Well, that's outrageous. Like normal people shouldn't have to do that. And that should be leave that kind of tax planning for the rich and famous. So in Oregon, we've tried unsuccessfully for almost every legislative term to adjust that exemption, and our legislature just won't do it. Like this last long session.
That's crazy to me.
Why is it? Well, I'll tell you what happened in the last long session.
Yeah.
We had a bill. Senator Deb Patterson supported it. She's my senator, Democrat. Obviously, the Republicans were supporting it. We had Democrats and Republicans supporting this bill to make an adjustment to the estate tax. Well, at the end of that legislative session, for the budget reasons, the House leadership said any bill that has a revenue impact is going to die right now. So even though we had Democrats and Republicans all supporting these adjustments to the estate tax, the House leadership killed it. So for whatever reason, we can't get it done. And so if our legislature can't get it done, who's going to get it done? citizens. So Kevin Mannix is currently getting petition signatures for Initiative 51. We'll get enough signatures this summer. It'll go on the November ballot. In November, we as citizens have the opportunity to do what our legislature can't, and that is to eliminate Oregon's estate tax. That means we'll be just like 43 other states of the country without a death tax, meaning our senior citizens should stay here. They should retire here. They should, quite frankly, die here. They should spend their money here. Our business executives don't have to worry about that. We need to make adjustments so we keep people that help fund our tax base so that we as Oregonians can do the things that we want to do with our social safety net. Well, if we don't have a tax base, we can't do those things. And right now, I have to advise my clients, you cannot die in Oregon. You have to move out of state, which means they're not going to retire here. They're going to go to Arizona. They're going to go to Nevada. They're going to go to Idaho. They're going to go almost any other direction from this state, but they can't be here because our legislature won't make the fix. So if we don't do it, if we don't act as citizens, then we're going to keep losing.
Yeah. Well, and that makes a big difference because, in order because our state is struggling, right? When it comes to like business friendliness, when it comes to, being a place to die and retire, it's a hard place to do that. And if you think about it as a tax base, who has more money? The people retiring, or is it going to be, the younger kids?
and have more time on their hands. When you're retired, guess what you have? You have time. And if you have time, guess what? Our seniors are our volunteer base. They're at our homeless shelters. They're serving meals at Union Gospel Mission. They are doing the volunteer work that we need done. But if we kick them all out of the state, who's going to serve those in need? Right? Is it me? Well, I'm working. I mean, how can I do that? Right? Yeah. We need people with volunteer time on their hands to help, because government's not the answer.
Yeah.
We're the answer. But right now our government is kicking all the good people out of the state.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but it also like they take their money with them. Like, why wouldn't you? And so that means all of that money is leaving Oregon's economy
and being spent in Arizona and Nevada and Texas and Idaho and everywhere else but Oregon.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, Vancouver, Washington. They're also going across the river specifically because of the sales tax and the death tax here. Washington State politically is not that different than Oregon.
No.
But guess what they did last summer? They increased their exemption to $3 million and indexed it to inflation, meaning it's going to continuously go up to grow as people grow, whereas Oregon is stuck at a flat $1 million and stagnant. And we couldn't do what Washington did.
Dang.
I know.
Do you think this will pass?
I'm hoping that we get the word out, but I think it's going to be a tough fight. I think there's going to be certain segments of our community that don't want to lose, that have the desire that it's important to tax people that have money. So I don't know. I hope so. Let's get the word out. Let's get it passed so we can start with a clean slate.
Yeah. Well, and how does this help people who don't have $1 million in assets?
How does it help them?
Yeah.
The people that create jobs will stay here. The people that can volunteer at Union Gospel Mission will stay here. The people that will employ people that don't have $1 million will stay here and create better jobs, better living wages. The standard of living will rise. A rising tide floats all boats.
I know. We've also had some crazy things in Oregon passing recently. Did you see the one about hunting and fishing?
Tell me a story.
There's a measure. Let me make sure I have this one right. IP28. Have you heard about IP28?
No.
Okay, so basically what IP28 does is it gives animals, I think they pitch it as it's giving animals more rights. What it does is it essentially makes farming a form of like animal abuse. Hunting and fishing is basically gone. And it also makes it so like people using combines, sometimes they'll run over deer or whatever if they're out in the...
Or gophers or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Then like they can get in trouble for doing that. And so like it does all these like it takes the intention of treating animals well, I think is important.
I love treating animals well. It's super important.
Yes. And I also think that like we already have really strict laws around, animal, hunting and fishing regulations. In fact, they want...
And also the, animal abuse is not tolerated. It's already a crime.
Yes. 100%. And so like there's a lot of things that we already have in place that work very well. And then, there's some, rich white dudes who live up on the hill in Portland who decide that they should pass this for the rest of the state when it's just the craziest thing. Because, like, for example, being native, our culture is surrounded around hunting and fishing. Everybody hunts and fishes, right? And so I think a lot of cultures are. And so what's really interesting is like,
and yet
we're allowed
you also grew up in a culture that absolutely respects the land, that absolutely respects the animals that give themselves so that you can sustain your families.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what we will still be able to do even if IP28 passes?
Hunt and fish.
Well, no, if it passes, we won't. But if it
Not
does,
on reservation land, they can't stop you.
yeah, I think we still can.
Yeah, you guys are basically like a sovereign nation.
Yeah. Well, so have fun. No, but what's crazy about this is, so it'll stop a lot of hunting and fishing from happening, right? Which is where a lot of people get meat. Like, I have a freezer full of venison right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. But you can still go to the store and buy, Tyson meats and all these other giant factory farm meats. You can still get those from the store. It just prevents you from getting an animal that like actually had a real life. So either way, and like you're eating an animal, but one of them was abused his entire life, and you're basically endorsing them by buying their products, as opposed to an animal that actually lived a real life and got to live and breathe and exist.
And I promise I really treat my geese well, and I eat them every little bit. I love geese.
You eat geese?
I hunt geese, yeah.
What?
Yes.
I've never eaten a goose before.
Oh, man, they're good.
Where do you go?
Every year for the last 5 years, we go down the wild and scenic Rogue River.
Yeah.
And we float down on drift boats, and we hunt geese.
Wow. Well, and it's hard because, yes, animals die. Yeah. But at the same time, like, just like with our culture, you don't respect or really truly understand what the sacrifice that's being made in order for you to eat that meat until you've done that.
Yeah.
And for example, like if that was a factory raised goose, they would stuff it full of hormones. It would be trapped in a small cage, amongst the other ones. Whereas that goose, right, before, you killed it, it lived a real life, and it got to actually experience things.
And its population is actually managed to make sure it's sustainable.
Yes.
That's where our hunting regulations come from, is to make sure that one particular species is not overpopulating, to make sure that it's sustainable. So,
yeah. Exactly.
I mean, honestly, some of the best environmentalists are hunters because they want to preserve wetlands. They want to preserve forests. They want to make sure that animals are hunted in a sustainable way so that generations from now, their grandkids are still doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's insane to me that petition is almost got enough to be on the ballot, I'm pretty sure.
Well, that doesn't mean it'll pass.
Well, I don't think it will, but even the fact that it can get enough signatures just shows me the ignorance of, I think, a lot of people who don't truly understand what the weight and the gravity of what it means to do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm still going hunting in the fall.
Well, thank you for coming on the podcast, and thank you for sharing your, I really liked your perspective on your business and kind of, hearing about your upbringing. Also, how you use your business currently to this day, I think is pretty cool.
Business ministry is real.
Yeah, I think that's a really good perspective. And then I also was excited for, and I liked being able to hear about your perspective on the death tax.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah. So,
Everybody.
yeah, thank you for coming on the podcast. Appreciate it, Ryan. And thank you guys so much for listening. Again, I'd like to thank Collier Law and Compass Visuals for sponsoring the podcast. Thank you, guys. Peace.
Peace.